Well, Kirby Smart is talking about what his program has done lately and what no one else has achieved like his has. And here's what he said during an interview with XM Radio. He said, "We finished top 7 5 straight years. Nobody else can say that. So we've been in the batting order. We've been at the plate. We've been around. We just haven't been able to conquer it until this year." And you know, he's right. Clemson this past year really slipped. Alabama in 2019 had a season that was not very Alabama-like. Um, but Georgia's been pretty consistent the entire time. You know, when you take a look back from where Kirby started this thing, um, his teams have always been gritty. They have fought. There have been some losses that I guess didn't make sense. You hear about those losses specifically because there's only a couple of them. The South Carolina game in 19 and the Texas game in 18. I mean, bowl games. It's hard to get mad about a bowl game, frankly. I thought I had a lot of doubt after the bowl game with Kirby in '98. When I say a lot, I mean that to me was no, they didn't show up for this game. The South Carolina game didn't change anything, but his point is, nobody's been able to pull off what we have. No one's been as consistent as we have. That's true. I mean, I think Nick at Alabama has certainly not gone backwards very much, if at all. When you take a look at the last 7 seasons of what Nick has done, it's been pretty good. I mean, they have. This is so funny. Of course, Kirby would say this. So they've been number two, number one, number two, number eight, number one, number two. So that's him kind of digging at Saban a little bit because they didn't finish in the top 7 like Georgia did. Um, but Nick would do the same thing. These guys are super competitive, man. I don't think people realize sort of how um, competitive they really are. I mean, Alabama hasn't had a season where they finished outside the AP top 10 since Nick's first year there. They've only had 2 seasons since 2008 where they've not been in the top 7. It just so happens to be that one of those years was when Kirby and Georgia were at there and Alabama wasn't. But he's right. He's right. There's no doubt he's right. I mean, I don't, I don't know if who's listening to that. I don't know if he's just saying that for to make himself feel better or like to. I don't know why, but it's true, and they have been a real force in college football. The ranking is one thing, and he knew that because of Nick, y'all. But it really is the championship. The championship is the part that separated Georgia from the critics, and that's one thing we talk about in DAWGSTRUCTION. We lead you through the season. If you get DAWGSTRUCTION today, you get our 2022 preview included for free. And this was a heck of a season. All seasons are interesting. Um, the 17 season was pretty interesting, but I think the 21 season, had its own. You didn't have the Rose Bowl, but you won a national championship. Here's the cover of the preview edition. I'm getting this week. Okay, order now because there's a little bit of supply chain stuff I got to deal with. I do get everything printed in Georgia, but it still takes a little time. Do not get delayed in ordering this. Take time right now and go ahead and click on it below. We appreciate everybody. We can't do this without y'all supporting us. We just can't. So we appreciate everybody doing it. I think Kirby, it's a talking point. I don't think he's trying to defend his program. He's pointing it out like it is. I mean, the truth is they have been the only team that's done that. They're the only team. Them and Ohio State are the only 2 teams that since 2017 have played in the BCS, in a New Year's Six Bowl every single year. They're the only ones. I mean, There's been a lot in these last 7 years, y'all, or 6 years, whatever it's been. I mean, you've had COVID, you've had uh, a disruption of college football as it relates to Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. There's been obviously a lot of coaching changes. Um, I think in the East, the only coaches that are still around that were there in 16 are Kirby and Mike Stoops up at Kentucky. I don't think anybody else. Everybody else is new. I mean, Florida. This will be the third coach. This will be the third Gator coach Kirby's dealt with. Um, Two of them he worked with, Napier and McElwain, and then you had obviously Dan Mullen in between. It's just been he worked with Shane. I mean, Shane Beaver was on the staff at Georgia in 17. But what's his point? I mean, part of it is, hey, we're coming for Alabama. Period. That's what so much of this is. And the thing about it is that Georgia and Alabama really are not rivals in the traditional sense. They've played one another obviously since the dawn of time, but every game can't be a rivalry. And when the two get together like they did in 84 or 90, obviously 07 was epic, 02, 12, 17, 18, 21. But the second game was better than the first, but they were kind of both blowouts. But uh, those two teams have become Oklahoma, Nebraska, I guess, of the current decade. But Georgia had to do their part, and they had not done their part, but now they have. And they did it at the expense of Alabama 6 weeks after losing to Alabama. I was talking to somebody in the league, I think about 3 weeks ago, and they said that Georgia did it the way they did just after losing to Alabama and then just kind of smashing them. Um, that would have an effect on Alabama. That's what their take was. I'm not as certain that that's the case because Alabama is a machine, and Georgia has built a machine too. I I'm gonna tell a story. I went out to see Mike Bobo at Colorado State, and at the beginning of 2015 in late April, and we were talking about Georgia and Alabama and everybody in the league and everything, and he said. Um, he looked me straight in the eye and said, Alabama is a machine. Well, Georgia's a machine now. And Mike is a part of that machine. But it's a machine of 22-year-olds and younger. That's the part I think that um, Kirby, Nick, to some degree, Dabo, Ryan Day, they should be given credit for the work they've done to get their programs to be as consistent as they've been. And honestly, Dan Mullen was pretty good until this past season, frankly. But um, but Dan's gone. Kirby's got some. Excuse me. Dabo's got some headwinds. We got some first names around here. Jimbo has got some headwinds. A lot of people are going to say it's time for Texas A&M. It is time, but for Kirby and them, you know, kind of taking a subtle dig at Nick Saban with the we're the only ones who have done it the last however many years. They're completely they're competing against one another all the time. All the time. What Kirby isn't telling you when he says that is they finished eighth in the coaches poll. So he's using the AP poll. That's awesome. But hey, his job is to make his program win, look as good as it can winning. His job is to sell the program. That's his job. His job isn't to be a critic. I mean, not a critic in the way that we are critics. His job is to fix problems in a critical way on the practice field. But it's always a lot of fun to hear what he has to say about stuff. He's very calculating. Um, I know that from firsthand experience, and that he has done a great job of getting his program to the top. The question is, how many times are we going to see this sort of thing? Well, this right here. How many times are we going to see that reaction? I don't know, but it's not going to just be. I don't think it's just going to be one time, but that's me.